Hey there, Keith Heavilin here. Welcome to the very first episode of Entrepreneurship Simplified. And as the name will lead you to believe, yes, it is about entrepreneurship. This is going to be a little bit different than what you are probably hearing around the internet right now, around podcasts, around, social media. This is definitely not a podcast for those of you who are trying to get rich quick. Have come up with an idea, make millions of dollars, move on. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can teach you how to do that. I am not that person because I haven't figured it out myself. There is a lot of hard work that goes into entrepreneurship, and that's a lot about what this podcast will end up being about. I have started a new company called Box Business Solutions, and our tagline is Entrepreneurship Simplified. So, thus, it is the name of the podcast. And it's really all about helping people kind of get off the sidelines and start that side gig, start that new business, take that leap into business ownership that they've been thinking about for, months, sometimes years, sometimes decades. And I feel like I'm a great person, a great example of somebody who did that. I started my first, what I'll call real business, when I was 20 years old. Dropped out of the University of Tennessee to start this business. I had a bunch of businesses when I was a kid, trying to make some money so I could buy things like I had a paper route, had mowed yards, washed cars, stuff like that. But my first real business would have been when I dropped out of the University of Tennessee to start a liquor store of all things at 20 years old. So since then, I've been what many people would call a serial entrepreneur. Always looking to start something new because it's fun, but also because I have other ideas and I get bored kind of easily. Throughout the years, I have helped other people start businesses because I feel like it's kind of like working in the restaurant industry. Everybody should do it once so you learn to appreciate it. Everybody should try at least a side gig so you learn to appreciate the hard work that goes into owning a small business. And then you would appreciate it a lot more when you're using those services because one, you'd use more small businesses because you know how hard those people work and are trying to just provide for their families. But two, you would understand, what it goes into doing these, and you're not just rich because you're a small business owner. A lot of people just assume if you own a small business, hey, that guy's rich. Spoiler alert, it's not true. This podcast will be different than a lot of the other ones out there. This is not a get rich quick. This is not like, hey, in 3 months you can be a millionaire. I'm sure somebody can teach you how to do that. That is not me. And frankly, I'm not here necessarily to teach so much as to learn from a lot of other people who've been through this journey of their own, and learn a lot of lessons from my own businesses, but also to hopefully teach anybody who listens to or watches this podcast. So Box Business Solutions, what it is it's a business that I've put together to help other people launch businesses. Like I said before, I've helped 8 people now start a business. Most of them start as side gigs. Some of them start as full-time gigs, but I've helped 8 people kind of start a business because they didn't know where to start. Like, hey, I don't want to work for X anymore. I hate my job. Hey, I got laid off. I need something to do. There's been a lot of different reasons why I've helped friends start businesses. But ultimately, I've helped 8 people. And thankfully, all 8 are still going. And to varying degrees of success. Some have made millions and millions of dollars. Some have just, are relatively new, made tens of thousands of dollars or, $100,000. But ultimately, a lot of this is people are scared, one, or two, don't necessarily know where to start. So they just never get started. And Box Business Solutions, my goal is to make it so, hey, I can give you a business in a box. All you have to do is water that business, and the water is labor. And here, hey, it starts to grow. And again, whether you want to start something as a side gig or start something full time, we're able to help you out with that. Lots of ideas. Hey, this is how you do it. This is exactly the steps you need to take. Here's how here's a website. Here's how you get leads. Here's the next step after you pull the trigger and get started. A lot of the things that you just don't know, I can help you out with Box Business Solutions because I've been there. I've done it. My wife and I have done it many, many times. So that's the entire idea behind Box Business Solutions. But back to the podcast, what I'm trying to do is give people the resources, the confidence, the ability to say, hey, I can try this too. And a lot of it's going to be just talking to other entrepreneurs who've done this and the journey that they've come down. Because while I have my experience, not with just one business, but a lot of businesses, over a dozen businesses that I've started, my path isn't necessarily going to be the one for everyone. And I understand that and I appreciate that. So, you'll be able to learn from a lot of other people. I'll bring on people who are experts in their field. So, an attorney that tells you, hey, this is how you get set up with an LLC. Here's when you might consider starting an S Corp instead of an LLC, bookkeepers, people that do funding for businesses. Cause that's a question I get asked a lot is, hey, you'll have this great idea, but I just need some money. And sometimes that's, going to be able to get that through personal finances, find an investor, find, family members, stuff like that. But once you get going, trying to find funding to kind of take your business to the next level and be able to hook you up with people like that, to give you an idea of what's possible. So again, this is not a get rich quick. If it was, I would be a lot richer than I feel like I am if I could figure that out. But this is just my experience and my perspective of almost 25 years of entrepreneurship, of just a lot of it's just grind, like working really, really hard, putting the hours in. Again, whether it's a side hustle or it's, a full-time gig, it just takes a lot of work sometimes. And again, I've had businesses that I've started as side gigs. I've had businesses that have been my full time. Like, hey, I have to make money off this. And being able to explain the difference between the two and when you can do one versus the other. And sometimes you don't have a choice, right? You don't have a job. I gotta make money. Here we go. But there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, so to speak. But I want to be able to share again what's worked for me, what's worked for other people, and have actionable takeaways, not just stories, because stories are great, but like, hey, I want to be able to take this from this guy, take this from this woman, take this from me, and put this into something that's actionable and be able to start a business or start a side hustle to be able to start your entrepreneurial journey. So again, if you're looking for not for a get rich quick, not here. Unfortunately, this is not the place for you. As far as what we can do, what we try to help people with is I'm putting together some assessments, and they'll be available on a website coming to you soon somewhere. My actual job that I spend the majority of my time on is Yellowfin Digital. So we build websites. And with the help of my team and with a bunch of AI stuff, we're putting together some assessments that'll tell you a couple of things. One, hey, can you be an entrepreneur? Do you have a chance? There's some people that just they like the idea of it, but when when they're faced with a bunch of questions that they would have to be able to answer in a certain manner, they might find out that, hey, I don't have the risk tolerance for this. I don't like the not getting a steady paycheck. I don't like the, you might have to work on holidays and weekends and, sacrifice. So there's assessments for that, but then there's also an assessment I'm putting together for what type of business. So I get a lot like, hey, I just want to work for myself because I want the freedom. And you'll hear me talk about that a lot, like the freedom that comes with being a business owner. I used to think just a really, really big bank account was a success to me. But as I've gotten older and two kids that you can see back there, success looks like freedom, to the ability to coach their little league team, the ability to go spend time with them, take time off from work. And one thing we like to go do is watch basketball. We had the opportunity last year to go to March Madness with the local university team when they made it into the March Madness. That to me is what freedom is, or what success is that freedom to be able to do that. And in order to get there, you have to figure out what type of business, is it going to take for you to get to that freedom? So again, people come up to me and say, "Hey, I know I can work hard. I have the determination. I just don't know what type of business to start." So that's what that assessment is for: is to say, "Hey, look, tell me about yourself. Answer all these questions. Let's try to figure this out. Let's try to help you figure this out." So that's another thing that is available through Box Business Solutions. You'll be able to find it. I'll link to it from the podcast. But that's what I'm trying to do, is help people. It's fun for me to help people start businesses. I don't know why. It's a passion of mine. I like helping people just in general. If you need help rewiring something at your house, I'm the guy that you call up and say, "Hey, come help do this," because that's fun for me. One, working with my hands, but two, helping people. And helping people change their lives. Go from working 10-hour days, never being able to dictate what you do, where you do it, and give them the freedom to be able to go work for themselves, make more money, be able to decide when they work, when they go on vacation, that kind of thing. that's rewarding for me. That's fun. I was lucky enough to start my entrepreneurial journey young enough that I didn't have a brain, so to speak. I thought I knew everything, and as it turns out, I knew nothing. I just also didn't know to be afraid. I didn't have a lot of commitments. I owned a house at the time that I had roommates that paid for basically for me to live for free. So I was able to take the leap, so to speak, and start a retail liquor store of all things. Um, but as I've gotten older, if I was 44, which is where I am right now, and it was my first time starting a business, I have 2 kids, wife, mortgage, lots of bills, a lot more than I had when I was 20. It would be much harder for me to pull that trigger, I think, than what it was then. Now, it's easier for me now because, again, I've taken the risks. I've had the successes. I've had very good successes. I've had terrible, terrible failures where I lost literally every penny that I'd ever made from the first couple businesses that I owned. And I've lived through those and I understand, I've learned a lot of lessons, which I like to be able to pass on to people like, hey, here's a list of all the things that I screwed up. Don't do any of those because goodness gracious, that was hard. That sucked. And I like to be able to pass it on and help people, so instead of starting at the bottom level, I like help people, like, hey, let's take, 10 steps up and be able to kick off from there. And it just makes things easier if you can learn from the mistakes of others. And I've done it myself. I've had other people in my life that I've learned from that have helped me a lot. And I like to be able to pass that on. It's a gift that I like to be able to give people. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. I hope to get some great guests on here that can share their journeys as well and help you avoid a lot of mistakes potentially. If nothing else, again, we want you to be able to take actionable things away from the podcast, but also it's fun to hear stories. It's fun to be able to go back and forth with somebody else that is a business owner that has walked the entrepreneur journey because there's a lot of war stories out there. So it'll be fun. That's the goal. It's going to be a laid back type of podcast. It'll be fun. And the hope is that you enjoy listening to it. You're able to take something away from it and hopefully one day take that leap into entrepreneurship, start that business and get the same freedom that a lot of us are able to have. So that's the end of episode 1. I just wanted to kind of share my backstory, a little bit about what it is. I hope you guys will like, share, follow on social media, follow us wherever you listen to your podcast, and cannot wait to get some guests in here and start sharing that with you as well. Thanks a lot. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. Your next step, take what you've learned today and put it into action. Now, if this episode gave you something to think about, do me a favor and leave a review or share it with someone you think needs to hear it. And if you have any thoughts, let's continue this discussion. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Let's simplify entrepreneurship together. We'll see you on the next one.